Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. I am just Mike. You are watching and you are listening to episode number 49 of the Rock On Wild show, where it's not just a show, it is a way of life. Now, if you haven't done so yet, and if you are new to this video and new to this channel, watching this right now, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below this very video. You can also like or dislike this episode of the Rock Out Wild show and share this episode and spread the word to everyone you know, from your family to your friends to your coworkers to your acquaintances. Tell everyone about the Rock Out Wild show and share this on all of your social media platforms, from Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, X, what have you, Blue Sky. I don't use it much, but that is a social media site as well. Tell everyone what the Rock Out Wild show is all about. As you see from the title of this very video, I am going to read off an article that I found that came out about a month or so ago. And it's an article from USA Today, where they ranked their top 25 NHL Stanley Cup champions. Last week, I done an episode of the World Series in baseball. I think it's only fitting that I do talk about another sports main event in the realm of hockey, Canada's favorite sport. Also on the docket on this day for December the 3rd, we're going to look at wrestling, film and television, and music. We're going to skip sports because we have our main event for sports. And I feel like I was going on a little bit long last week, so I'm kind of still learning as I go with each episode as I go along. So that will be most of the things that I have in store for episode number 49 of the Rock Out Wild show. But first, as you all know, I kick things off with a movie review reaction that I have recorded 10 years ago, where I am going to react to my movie review for Selma. So let's get this going, shall we? Let's turn on the webcam and say hi to everyone watching and listening to this right now. You know, you're either watching this as it is happening on the premiere on December the 3rd, or you're probably watching this after this episode airs. Before I get underway, I want to give a special shout out to my favorite cousin. You know who you're talking about. Happy birthday to you, Marissa. So let's get this reaction ready for you all. So let's present, share screen, and let's go to the review. Make sure the audio is on. Perfect. And let's go full screen, and let's react. In 3, 2, 1, action. I had a dream that not all movies that are coming out in January this year are bad ones. Yes. Let's start. Hey, what is up, all movie fans in the movieverse? Welcome to the Mike McRock Movie Review Show. Right now, I'm going to review Selma, and Selma is the chronicle of Martin Luther King Jr.'s campaign to secure equal voting rights via the epic march from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama in 1965. Right. Going into this movie, I was wondering if this was going to be either a bio piece from Martin Luther King's birth to his death, his life story, or is this going to be one pivotal moment in time? And the other thing going into this movie, is this going to pass the sleep test? Is this going to be boring, or is this going to be really something to remember? Before I continue, I must say that the biggest crime a movie can commit is to be boring. But was Selma boring? Let's find out. And in my opinion, this
is one of those one to remember type of movies. To me, there was never a dull moment throughout this entire movie at all.
Also, before I go any further, I will predict I gave this movie, I would say, an 84. I could be off, but we'll see.
I thought Selma was a great movie. It was very impactful, very powerful, very historic, and very emotionally driven. Wow, I was just blew away by this movie and what this movie accomplished. And
Mm-hmm.
I like that these days, when it comes to bio pieces, when it comes to movies, I like now that they're focusing on more on the pivotal moments in time rather than someone's bio from birth to death, because sometimes that could be really boring
Yeah.
and really dragged on. And I like that this movie is only 2 hours long, and it's in one pivotal moment in time when it comes to black people and the voting rights. So that I really did enjoy about this movie,
Yeah.
is that it focused on that one specific event. And the guy that plays Martin Luther King Jr. is absolutely incredible. David Oyelowo.
Right. David Oyelowo.
You are a genius. Just the way this guy speaks, the way this guy looks, the way he talks, even the little things, to me embodies Martin Luther King Jr. He nails it to a T.
I don't know if it's just me or not, but has David Oyelowo's performance in Selma got lost in the shuffle as years went on? I'm just wondering.
And I have to say that if he doesn't win or at least gets nominated for Actor of this year, I will definitely riot. This guy should at least be nominated for Actor of the Year because he delivered an Oscar-worthy performance as Martin Luther King Jr. And what I like about the Martin Luther King Jr. character in this movie
Mhm.
is that I like how they didn't make him look out to be like he's God. I
Right.
like that they showed a lot of human elements about MLK in this movie, and that he was very vulnerable, and he's just a man. He's just like you and me,
He's a
and that's what
man.
I really like. What this movie accomplished. Not only he's this leader that everyone looks up to, but he's just another guy like
Mhm.
everyone else. And I like that this movie showed both of those. To me, when you uh, see this guy in this movie and just this emotional journey that he has to go through, it's really something worth watching, and it
It
just
is.
really grips you
Yeah.
from the heart of your core, or
Hmm.
the core of your heart, or whatever you want to call it. And I really enjoyed this journey that Martin Luther King went through from start to beginning of this movie. And I also like some of the supporting cast. I like Tim Roth in this movie, even though I
Tim
think
Roth.
he was underutilized somewhat. You
Sure.
also had Tom Wilkinson, who was the
Yeah.
president at the time,
You know who that
and I
is?
like the dialogue between Martin Luther King and the president. Just the way those two were talking back and forth in this movie, and the way that the politics were working back in those days was just something that was really worth watching. And you also had people like Cuba Gooding Jr. in this movie, as well
Oh,
as Giovanni Ribiashi. I don't know if I got that pronounced right, but you also have Oprah Winfrey in a small little role in this
Oprah was
movie,
in this.
who
Yep.
also produced this movie as well, along with Brad Pitt. So it was great to see some of these actors work their craft. My only little issue I had with the cast in this movie is that uh, the only character that was really interesting was Martin Luther King Jr. And I thought, even though the supporting cast was really done, the way they acted was really well, I just didn't think that they were as interesting as Martin Luther King Jr. Not on his level, somewhat of their own level, but not at Martin Luther King level. And
Now, to be fair, and I've said this before, David Oyelowo is the star of the show. He should be the most interesting character in this. But there's also a thing where you do have to make your supporting cast interesting as well. And I guess that David Oyelowo just sucked all the energy in the room and didn't leave the scraps for anybody else. That's just my retrospective take on it.
And another thing I had a little problem with was that sometimes the movie would have some pacing issues. The first good 10 or 15 minutes of this movie was really strong, but then it kind of lost its way a little bit, but it picks up again, and it kind of does this over and over. It kind of took me out of it. It was almost like, okay, the first 15 minutes were great, the next 15 minutes were okay, the next 15 minutes were great. It just kept, it was like a seesaw going back and forth.
Right.
That's what it was like watching this movie. But as an overall type of movie, it was just one of those memorable type of movies that you just want to see again, just to see the details and events that took place in this movie. And it was definitely worth the watch. It was sometimes very violent in this movie, and I like that it goes all the way with the violence.
Yep.
And it was just a tough time to go through during this time when all this stuff was going on back then. And I also strongly, firmly believe that this movie should be seen in schools worldwide. I think this is definitely one of those movies that kids should learn from and know what Martin Luther King meant to society. And with that being said, I gotta say that Selma is definitely one of the best movies I've seen so far this year, and it's only January. Even though it did have its issues, I'm still going high with my rating, and I'm gonna say that Selma delivered 85 points out of 100.
Oh my God!
And if you saw this movie, what did you think about it? Feel free to leave your comments in the comment section below, and you can also hit that subscribe button as well to get Mick Rocks.
Yeah, so that was my reaction to my old movie review for the movie called Selma, and I was off by one freaking point. You can start the trend right now. Hashtag one freaking point. Oh my God. Not too bad, not too bad for someone who hasn't watched my review for that in years. It's been like since I've recorded that review, I played it back, and I never played that back until just now, tonight. So, what is my overall retrospective take on Selma? I could maybe watch it again. I don't know. I was pretty positive on it. It's kind of like not on the same level, but Schindler's List is a movie you only need to see once. Rewatchability is out the window. It's a fantastic movie, but like I said, the rewatchability is out the window. Kind of like Selma, I guess. You know, I'm kind of picky on true stories and stuff. What I want to watch now, and what I want to watch, and what I want to watch Selma in 2025. I don't know. I actually legit don't know, but that is my whole thing about Selma, and that was my reaction to my old movie review from 2015. All right, now let's take a look at some of the things that you see on the Rock Out Wild show called On This Day for December the 3rd. And I should also note that this is the third last Rock Out Wild episode before the year is over. So, with that said, let's kick things off with On This Day in the World of Professional Wrestling. So let's present, share screen, and see what we have here. As we see, there's a poster right there of ECW December to Dismember. I don't remember much of that pay-per-view, but I remember it wasn't well received, I can tell you that. Let's see what we have here. In 1991, WWE's This Tuesday in Texas pay-per-view took place at the Freeman Coliseum in San Antonio, Texas. The rare midweek pay-per-view came just days after the Survivor Series and was headlined by Hulk Hogan brother, winning back the WWF Championship that he had lost just days earlier from The Undertaker. Due to both matches ending under a cloud of shenanigans, the title was vacated a week later. This was the last midweek pay-per-view run by WWE until Taboo Tuesday in 2004. In the year 2000, when We Will Make It Up to You, ECW ran their Preluminate pay-per-view Massacre on 34th Street from the Hammerstein Ballroom in Manhattan, New York. On the show, Danny Doring and Roadkill defeated the FBI, Little Guido and Tony Mamaluke, for the ECW Tag Team Championships. In the main event, Steve Corino retains the ECW World Heavyweight Championship in a three-way dance with Jerry Lynn and Justin Credible. In 2006, the James Brown Arena in Augusta, Georgia, played host to what is thought by many to be the worst WWE pay-per-view of all time. Like I said earlier, ECW December to Dismember. The show had only 2 matches advertised in advance and suffered the lowest pre-network buy rate of any WWE pay-per-view in history with just 90,000 buys. That does seem rather low, actually. The main event saw Bobby Lashley win the ECW title in an Extreme Elimination Chamber, where he defeated defending champion The Big Show, Rob Van Dam, Test, Hardcore Holly, and CM Punk. And in 2013, at an Impact TV taping in Orlando, Florida, Nick Aldis defeated Jeff Hardy to win the TNA World Championship in a Dixieland match. With the win, Aldis became the first British wrestler to win a world championship in a major North American promotion. We have some notable wrestling birthdays here. We got Wolfgang, born on this day in 1986. Jake Hager, born on December 3rd, 82. And Super Crazy, born on 1973. And Skip Young passed away on this day on December 3rd, 2010. Those are all the headlines for professional wrestling for December the 3rd. Now let's take a look at what happened on December the 3rd in film and television. In 1730, Colley Cibber is appointed British Poet Laureate under King George II. In 1907, George M. Cohan's musical Talk of the Town premieres in New York City. In 1947, Tennessee Williams staged drama A Streetcar Named Desire, starring Jessica Tandy, Marlon Brando, and Ken Hunter, and directed by Elia Kazan, opens the Ethel Barrymore Theater in New York City, and it runs for 855 performances, wins a Tony Award and a Pulitzer Prize. In 1949, KRLD, now KDFW, TV Channel 4 in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas, begins broadcasting. In 1952, first TV broadcast in Hawaii. In 1955, KTVE, TV Channel 10 in Moreno, El Dorado, LA, begins broadcasting. In 1956, KFSA, now KFSM, TV Channel 5 in FT Smith AR first broadcasts. I guess it's Fort Smith, if I'm not mistaken. In 1960, Alan J. Lerner and Frederick Lowe's musical Camelot, starring Richard Burton and Julie Andrews, and introducing Robert Goulet, opens at Majestic Theater, New York City, runs for 873 performances, and wins 4 Tony Awards. In 1964, KHQL, now KCAN, TV Channel 8 in Albany, Nebraska, begins broadcasting. I think it's Nebraska. In 1966, television pop group The Monkees make their live concert debut at the Honolulu International Center Arena in Hawaii. In 1968, well, since my baby left me, I found a place to dwell. Standing in the only street of Harbor Hotel. Thank you very much. In 1968, Elvis Presley's comeback special airs on NBC, his first live performance in 7 years, relaunching his singing career. In 1982, Francis film debuting Life of Actress Frances Farmer and starring Jessica Lange, first released in the US. In 1983, musical Marilyn, an American fable loosely based on the life of Marilyn Monroe, starring Alison Reed and Scott Bakula, closes at Minskoff Theater, New York City after 17 performances. In 1985, 7th ACE Cable Awards. Shirley Duvall wins the Golden Cable ACE for Fairy Tale Theater. In 1991, Hogan defeats. I was just going over this. In 1991, Hogan defeated Undertaker at this Tuesday in Texas at the Freeman Coliseum in San Antonio to become 4-time WWF champion. Oh, brother. In 2018, David Attenborough warns collapse of civilization and the natural world on the horizon at UN Climate Summit in Poland. Also in 2018, 7-year-old Ryan of Ryan Toys Review is the year's highest paid YouTube star, earning $22 million. In 2020, AT&T Inc.'s Warner Brothers Studio announces all its 2021 movies will stream online the same day they appear in theaters because of the pandemic. Fun times were had by all back then. No, not really. And in 2023, Kennedy Center honors ceremony held for pop singer Dionne Warwick, singer-songwriter Barry Gibb, comic actor Billy Crystal, operatic soprano Renee Fleming, and singer-actress Queen Latifah in Washington, D.C. Those are all the events and things that happened on this day in the film and television. And for the final installment for On This Day, we're going to look at music for December the 3rd and see what the highlights were back in the years past. The Beatles release Rubber Soul on this day in music, December the 3rd, 1965. The Beatles released their landmark album, Rubber Soul. Many fans and journalists regard the band's 6th LP as a turning point in their discography, as the Fab Four placed a new emphasis on overall cohesiveness as opposed to just highlighting singles. John, Paul, George, and Ringo began the writing and recording process after their August 1965 North American tour, during which they met Bob Dylan and Elvis Presley. These encounters, paired with influences from the soul and folk rock scenes, led the Beatles to begin experimenting with their sound and expand into new sonic territories, particularly with songs like Norwegian Wood, Think for Yourself, and In My Life. In 1965, The Who's debut My Generation arrived in the UK. While the band recorded the LP immediately after their first singles hit the British charts and long brushed it off as a rush job, the album has since become a defining title in rock music, particularly when it came to the group's harder, louder sound, which was unheard of at the time. The album arrived 5 months later in the US, where it was titled The Who Sings My Generation and featured a different cover and a slightly altered track list. In 2015, Stone Temple Pilots frontman and co-founder Scott Weiland suffered a fatal heart attack at the age of 48. Only the good die young. Known for his unique, versatile vocals, Whelan could be heard such hits as Plush, Interstate Love Song, and Vaseline. From 2003 to 2008, Whelan also served as the lead vocalist for Revolver, a supergroup featuring Guns N' Roses' Slash, Duff McKagan, and Matt Sorum, plus Dave Kushner of Wasted Youth. In 2014, Ed Sheeran was named the most streamed artist in the world by Spotify. At the time, the 23-year-old singer-songwriter had racked up more than 860 million streams on Spotify, 430 million of which were earned through his album X, released earlier that year. In 1977, write that one down. Paul McCartney and Wings began a 9-week run at the top of the UK pop chart with Mull of Kintyre. Influenced by Scottish folk music, the tune became the first single in the UK to sell over 2 million copies. Okay, I'll stop with the Scottish stuff and continue on. In 1965, the Beatles launched what will be their final UK tour at Glasgow's Odeon Cinema. In 1994, Boyz II Men became the first act since the Beatles to knock themselves off the top of the US pop chart. The feat occurred when the ballad On Bended Knee replaced their earlier hit, I'll Make Love to You, remaining there for 6 consecutive weeks. In 1955, RCA Victor announced their record deal with Elvis Presley. Before the month's end, the label would reissue many of the artist's earlier tracks with Sun Records. And in 2007, Diana Ross and the Beach Boys' Brian Wilson were celebrated at the prestigious Kennedy Center Honors Ceremony. We have some birthdays here for December the 3rd. We have Andy Williams was born on this day in 1928. Born in 1948 on December the 3rd, God rest his soul, Ozzy Osbourne. Mickey Thompson from Jefferson Starship was born on this day in 1949. From the 38th Special, Don Barnes was born in 1952. And born on December the 3rd, 1968, Montel Jordan. Those are all the things that happened on the day in the world of music. And I do believe it is about that time for the main event of this very episode 49 of the Rock Out Wild Show. And as you see from the title, it is an article from USA Today. I will be going over that in just a little bit as they rank the top 25 NHL Stanley Cup Champions. And seeing as hockey is going on currently, I think this is the right time to go over this list. So let's present, share screen, and let's see what this article has in store for us all. So this was written by Mike Bream on October the 7th, 2025, just a couple of months ago. And it says we ranked the last 25 NHL Stanley Cup champions and see who took number 1. So it says here, the editor's notes, this is a part of an occasional USA Today sports series on the best moments, teams, players, and figures in sports over the last 25 years. The Florida Panthers have won the last 2 Stanley Cup championships. And starting October the 7th, they will try for a three-peat that hasn't been done since the 80s. So where do these 2 teams rank among the 25 that have lifted the Stanley Cup in the first 25 years of the century? Ranking is difficult because of the wide variety of circumstances of the seasons. The Hall of Famer Landon from 01 to 02, Detroit Red Wings, would be an obvious pick, but that was before the NHL instituted a salary cap, and the only payroll limit was the size of a team's owner bank accounts. The 2012 to 2013 Chicago Blackhawks had a spectacular season, but it was shortened by a lockout. The Tampa Bay Lightning won back-to-back titles in 2020 and 2021, but those seasons were shortened by COVID pandemic. Like I said earlier, fun times were had by all. Not really. So with that in mind, here is a ranking of the last 25 championship teams. So let's see there is a gallery of 70 pitchers, but I'm not going to look at the gallery. I'm just going to go straight to this list. So number 25, St. Louis Blues, who won the Stanley Cup in 2019. Based on storylines, this team would be near the top of the list. They were inspired by a coaching change to Craig Berube, goalie Jordan Binghamton's call-up, superfan Leah Anderson, and the song Gloria. They were last in the league in January and railed to win it all. But the team hasn't come close to duplicating that run. They have been to the second round only once since. Number 24, the Los Angeles Kings. Regular season 40-27-15. Playoffs 16-4. And it says here the regular season was a disaster. And they went through two coaches before Daryl Sutter was hired and nailed down the final berth. Then the Kings were nearly unbeatable. They took a 3-0 lead in every series despite starting each one on the road. Number 23, we have the Pittsburgh Penguins. It says here the Penguins lost in the final year before, but they were only a little better than .500 when coach Michael Theron was fired 57 games into the season. Dan Bilzema went 18-3-4 down the stretch and led Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, and Chris Letang, and Marc-Andre Fleury to the first championship. Number 22, the Tampa Bay Lightning. It says here, did they really win? The Calgary Flames thought Martin Galena scored a go-ahead goal in the third period of potential clinching Game 6. Replays showed the puck went in, but the play continued, and Lightning stayed alive with a double overtime win before winning Game 7. This team featured future Hall of Famers Martin St. Louis, that the season's Hart Trophy winner, and Dave Andreychuk. Brad Richards had 7 games winning goals to be named playoff MVP. Number 21, the Washington Capitals, who won the Cup in 2018. And right off the bat, we get the name Alex Ovechkin. He won his first and only Stanley Cup. The run didn't start smoothly. The Capitals lost the first, well, this was at the time anyway. The Capitals lost the first 2 games with Philip Grubauer in net and went back to Brendan Holtby. He helped the Capitals rally in that series and get past the rival Penguins. Washington overcame a 3-2 series deficit against the Lightning and then beat the Golden Knights in 5 games, sparked by a big Holtby save. And it says here, Evgeny Kutsinov was impressive, and Ovechkin won playoff MVP with 15 goals. Coach Barry Trotz left the offseason, and the Capitals didn't get out of the first round until last season. Number 20, the Pittsburgh Penguins, who won the Stanley Cup in 2016. Says here, Crosby and company won their second Stanley Cup title, but it took another coaching change to get there. Mike Johnson was fired after 28 games, and Mike Sullivan became a coach. Fleury suffered a concussion in March, opening the door for Matt Murray to lead the Penguins on a playoff run. Then we have New Jersey Devils at number 19 when they won the Cup in the year 2000. It says here, Coach Robbie Ftorek was fired with 8 games left in the season, and through Larry Robinson went 4 games to 4. He had led the team to its second championship. The Devils had to rally from a 3-1 series deficit in the conference finals, and then they ousted the defending champion Stars in 6 games in the final. Scott Stevens, who rocked Edric Lindros in the Conference Final, was playoff MVP. Then at number 18 here, we have the Los Angeles Kings, who won the Stanley Cup in 2014. This team was resilient, overcoming a 3-0 series deficit to outset the San Jose Sharks. Then a 3-2 deficit against the Ducks. It won Game 7 on the road 3 times. The final was a 5-game win against the New York Rangers, but 3 games went to overtime, 2 to double overtime. Justin Williams, nicknamed Mr. Game 7, appropriately was playoff MVP. Number 17 on this list is the New Jersey Devils, who won the Stanley Cup in the year 2003. It says that Martin Brodeur was brilliant in the regular season. I really agree with that. I lived through this. With a league best 41 wins and 9 shutouts. That is damn impressive. He also was brilliant in the playoffs with 7 shutouts, including 3 in the final. Through Brodeur, won the Vince Trophy. He didn't get the Conn Smith. That went to Anaheim goalie Jean-Sebastien Giguère. So, yeah, that was a time when I actually do remember really heavily watching the playoffs during this time in the Stanley Cup. And this was back in the days where I was in high school then. So I remember this pretty well. Then we got number 16, Chicago Blackhawks, who won the Cup back in 2015. This was their 3rd championship in 5 years, and the core members, Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane, Duncan Keith, and Marian Hossa, led the way. Keith won the Conn Smith with a league best 18 assists and plus 16 rating. This team ranked 2nd in the regular season in defense, and they held the Lightning, the number 1 offense, to 10 goals in 6 games in the final. Then we got also the Chicago Blackhawks again, who won the Stanley Cup in 2010. They're at number 15 here. Says here, they were the first dynasty of the salary cap era, led by Toews, Kane, and future Hall of Famers Hossa and Keith. But the Blackhawks had to part ways with multiple players after the season because of cap concerns. It took them 3 years to win again. Number 14, as you saw earlier, Boston Bruins, who won the Cup back in 2011. It says here they were led by 4 players who would be the core for years. Zdeno, Chara, Patrice Bergen, Brad Marchand, and David Kurigisi. If I mispronounce those names, I'm really sorry. Tim Thomas won the Vezina Trophy and Conn Smith with a .938 save percentage in the regular season and a .940 in the playoffs. The Bruins overcame 2-0 series deficits in the first and final round and a 3-2 deficit in the final. Number 13 on this list, we have the Florida Panthers, who won the Cup last year. It says here, a year after losing the 2023 final, the Panthers captured the first title in franchise history. Unlike in 2023, they had home ice advantage in 3 rounds. They beat the number 1 overall Rangers in 6 games in the conference final and won the first 3 games against the Oilers in the final. Edmonton fought back to tie the series, but the Panthers played a perfect Game 7 to lift the Cup. Number 12 on this list, we have the Anaheim Ducks, who won the Cup in the year 2007. It says here, Hall of Famers Teemu Selanne and Chris Pronger won their first and only Cup. Scott Niedermayer won his 4th, 3 with the Devils, and got to share with brother Rob. Scott also won the Conn Smith. Number 11 on this list, the Vegas Golden Knights. They won the Cup in 2023, and I remember the Golden Knights having a tremendous first year in hockey. That I do remember. And it says here, the Golden Knights won a championship in their 6th season of existence, fulfilling team owner Bill Foley's prediction. Vegas had the Western Conference best record despite multiple goalie injuries that continued in the playoffs. They switched to Adin Hill after Laurent Brosset was hurt. Jonathan Marchessault won the Conn Smythe over Jack Eichel. Vegas crushed the banged-up Panthers 9-3 in the clincher. Number 10, the Carolina Hurricanes won the Cup in 2006. They were the first champion of the salary cap era. They lost the first 2 games of the playoffs, but coach Peter Laviolette switched to goalie Cam Ward early in Game 2, and he went on to win the Conn Smythe. Captain Rod Bryan's Armour is now the Hurricanes coach, and mid-season addition Mark Ritchie went on to the Hall of Fame. Number nine, we have the Tampa Bay Lightning, who won the Cup in 2020. It says here the Lightning have won 62 games the year before, only to get swept in the first round. But they added grittier players to get through the playoff grind. This postseason was played in the playoff bubble in Toronto and Edmonton because of the pandemic. The Lightning were deep enough to win despite captain Steven Stamkos missing all but 2 minutes and 47 seconds in the playoffs. Ouch. That's all I have to say. Number 8 on this list, we have the Tampa Bay Lightning again, who won the Cup the year later in 2021. It says here, Nikita Khrushchev missed the entire the COVID-shortened regular season after hip surgery, but he returned in the playoffs and dominated with a postseason best 32 points as the Lightning won back-to-back titles. The Conn Smythe went to goalie Andrea Vasilevsky, who clinched each round with a shutout. Number 7, the Florida Panthers, who won the Stanley Cup this year. They pulled off back-to-back titles. GM Bill Zito added Seth Jones before the deadline. Then he shocked the hockey world by landing Marchand in trade. The Panthers were banged up down the stretch, but they got players back to make a run despite lacking home ice advantage in every round. Coach Paul Maurice switched out his fourth line to overcome a 2-0 series deficit in the second round. Matthew Tkachuk played through a hernia and had 23 points in 23 games. Zito managed to get playoff MVP Sam Bennett, Aaron Iqbal, and Marchand re-signed in the offseason. Number 6 on this list, we have the Pittsburgh Penguins, who won the Cup in 2017. It says here that the Penguins were the first team in the salary cap era to win back-to-back championships. Sullivan made it 2-for-2 as the Penguins coach, and Crosby won his second consecutive Conn Smythe. Fleury started the first 2 playoff rounds, but Murray took over in the middle of the conference final and finished up. This was Fleury's last season with the Penguins as he went to the Golden Knights in the expansion draft. Then we have 5 left. We have the Colorado Avalanche, who won the Cup in 2022. That's number 5 here. It says here their 119 points, Lacuna Coil reference, if you didn't know, were the most amongst the teams on this list. They rolled in the playoffs, sweeping 2 series and knocking off the 2-time defending champion Lightning in 6 games. Defenseman Cale Maker won the Conn Smythe, and Nathan McKinnon, Gabriel Landsdorf, and Mikko Rantanen Rat-a-tan-tan, rat-a-tan-tan, rat-a-tan-tan. I have no idea how you pronounce any of those names. But they also had big postseasons. We got 4 left here. Number 4, the Detroit Red Wings in 2002. I remember this win. Absolutely. Love it. Here, and it says here, here's the list of future Hall of Famers on this team. Steve Yzerman, Nicholas Lindstrom, Brendan Shanahan, Brett Hall, Sergei Fedorov, Igor Larnov, Pavel Datsyuk, Luke Robitaille, Chris Chelios, and Dominic Hasek. Coach Scotty Bowman, already in the Hall, made everything mesh. The Red Wings won the President's Trophy and were resilient in the playoffs. Bowman retired after lifting the cup. Hasek stepped away too, though he eventually returned to the league. I was in high school when all this was happening, and I still remember that season in 2002 like it was yesterday. I remember Sergei Fedorov's wrist shot that won a game and probably won the cup too. Like, it's all that stuff is embedded in my head. That's why I love the Detroit Red Wings back in the early 2000s with that lineup. I mean, they also had Kozlov and Konstantinov as well, and Lapointe was another I should add as well. Who do we have at number 3 here? Well, we have Detroit Red Wings again. This time they won the Stanley Cup in the year 2008. It says here, this team also got a rare President's Trophy Stanley Cup double and did it during the Stanley Cup era. They ranked 3rd in goals and 1st in goals against the Conn Smythe winner, Henrik Zetterberg, and Datsyuk dominated in the playoffs. Chris Osgood had a 1.55 goals against average. This core also went to the 2009 final, losing to the Penguins. Number 2, we have the Chicago Blackhawks, who won the Stanley Cup in 2013. It says here, this season was 48 games because of a lockout, but what a season. The Blackhawks went the first 24 games without a regulation loss and finished with a league best .802 points percentage. The playoffs weren't as easy as because they had to overcome a 3-1 series deficit in the second round against the Red Wings. Chicago scored 2 goals in 17 seconds to clinch the title in Game 6 when it looked like that the Bruins might push the series to 7 games. Obviously, that was not the case at all. But what is number 1 on this article of the top 25 Stanley Cup winners? It is the Colorado Avalanche, who won the Stanley Cup in 2001. So it says superstar Ray Bourque acquired the season before finally got to lift the Stanley Cup. This was already a loaded team with Joe Sakic, who I remember very well, also Peter Forsberg, Patrick Roy, and Bourque. And then they added Rob Blake at the deadline. Yes, general manager Pierre Lacoric didn't have to worry about a salary cap, but he had the desired players needed to pull off such a big trade. The Avalanche won the final in 7 games against defending champions New Jersey Devils, and even though Forsberg missed the series after spleen surgery. So yeah, the Colorado Avalanche, number 1. And when they won the Cup in 2001. So that is number 1. That is this list of USA Today's top 25 NHL championships. And this has been episode, and that's pretty much all for the main event of this very episode. And this has been episode number 49 of the Rock Out Wild Show. I'm going to leave you all with a quote, and it goes something like this. Your personal matters are precious and deserve to be protected. Keeping them off social media always you to maintain a sense of privacy and control over who has access to your life. By safeguarding your personal information, you are preserving your peace of mind and maintaining a sense of dignity. Remember, not everything needs to be shared with the world. Embrace the beauty of discretion and cherish the intimacy of keeping certain aspects of your life sacred and private. Your experiences, thoughts, and feelings are valuable, and by keeping them close to your heart, you are honoring their significance. Trust in the power of discretion and enjoy the freedom that comes with choosing what to share and what to keep for yourself. I am your host, Just Mike, and this has been episode number 49 of the Rock Out Wild Show. And on a final note, too, all of you watching and listening to this all around the world, get plenty of rest and always do your best.